Welcome to the Start Something Show. Join world-renowned experts, change agents, and everyday folks who have done the amazing. All here to help you start something incredible. Now it's time to step out, live your perfect day, and create a legacy with your host, Tina Dietz.
Hello, Superstarters. This is Tina Dietz, and welcome to the Start Something Show. Today on the show, Steve Olsher, very cool dude, Mr. Bold himself, who's going to be talking with us about what it really means to reinvent yourself and his very interesting journey as a serial entrepreneur. He has been involved with online marketing really since you could market something online. And so all of that experience he's bringing to the table in his interview today. Really looking forward to talking with him on the show. But before we get to that, guess what time it is? It is the Superstarter of the Month time. Our Superstarter of the Month is Laura Ryan of the Pursuit Center in Ontario, Canada. Laura is a registered massage therapist by trade and had never owned a business before I met her, but she had this vision of creating a completely unique, one-of-a-kind self-recovery center for athletes in Ontario, Canada. And she went from idea to opening the doors on that center in 6 months. 6 months, having never owned a business before. And they've been open now for well over a year, and they are thriving, making a huge difference with athletes and their recovery and their performance all over the Ontario, Canada area. So Laura Ryan, thank you for making a difference in your community, for bringing your vision into reality, and for being our Superstarter of the Month. You can check out the Pursuit Massage and Recovery Center at pursuitcenter.com. And remember, center is spelled with an E. If you have a superstarter you'd like to nominate, go to the contact page on thestartsomethingshow.com and let us know who they are and the difference they're out making in the world, bringing their dreams into reality and leaving a powerful legacy. Our guest on the Start Something Show today is Steve Olsher. Steve is known worldwide for helping individuals and corporations become exceptionally clear on their what. That is, the one thing they were created to do. His practical, no-holds-barred approach to life and business propels his clients towards achieving massive profitability while also cultivating a life of purpose, conviction, and contribution. Just from that, you can see why I had to have him on the show. And he's a 25-plus year entrepreneur and the chairman and co-founder of Liquor.com. He is an online pioneer who launched on CompuServe's electronic mall in 1993. And he is a New York Times best-selling author of What is Your What? Discover the one amazing thing you were born to do. He's the author of the Business Technology Book of the Year, Internet Profits, the world's leading experts reveal how to profit online. And he has appeared on CNN, Fox Business, and other national outlets. Of course, you can connect with him on his very cool website, steveolsher.com. Steve, thanks for starting something with me today.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm all
doing
choked
great.
up already, Tina.
You're choked up already. It was the introduction. I had you
how
right
are you?
there.
That's better.
Good.
I have my voice. See, I can actually talk.
You do. And I know you can talk because I've heard you speak many times, and I'm always love hearing your sound of your voice. Not as much as I like hearing the sound of my own voice, but I do love hearing the sound of your voice. So it's all good. It's all good. All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Take us back to when you were getting started, because you are definitely an internet pioneer. When did you know you wanted to change your life and start something?
Well, I don't think that there's ever been a question that's, really where my head has been. I think that it's either wired, kind of into your DNA or it's not. And for me, I've always been wired as an entrepreneur, as someone who, I guess would rather lead than follow. Not a very good employee, as I've come to learn over the years.
You and me both, yes.
Yeah. So, it really goes way back when to where I was old enough to kind of pick up a rake or pick up a shovel and, rake leaves or shovel some snow. I think I've always been wired in that way to try to make a dollar wherever possible. So, it's been an interesting trek that has led me to radio and nightclubs and DJing and catalogs and .coms and real estate and, writing and speaking and teaching. So I don't think that there was ever a doubt in my mind that I was going to start something, and, I continue to start some things on a pretty frequent basis.
Yeah, one of the things that I love about your background, your history, your story is that you teach people how to really niche down, really, get focused about what they're doing. And yet at the same time, you have a very diverse background as well. So
I love call that being a hypocrite.
Well, well, we teach what we need to learn sometimes, I think,
actually,
too.
It's funny because in Authorland, they say that you write the book that you most need, right? So I wrote What Is Your What? Discover the One Amazing Thing You Were Born to Do, because I'm still trying to figure this shit out.
Yeah, right? Right, that's the thing. People think that, there's this glorious answer, the clouds are going to part and all that. You can be really clear on the mission you want to fulfill and who you are. But man, there's so many cool ways to get it done.
Yeah, and I think realistically, where people get thrown off is they think about it in terms of their passion, right? And, you should pursue what you're passionate about. And honestly, that's not always the case. And in most cases, it's a mistake. I don't sit here and pretend for a moment that you shouldn't be passionate about what you do, but, the two are definitely not one in the same. And reality says that in time, that equation shifts. So you're not always going to be passionate about the same thing at every point of your career, at every point of your life. And to think otherwise, I think honestly is leaving a lot of dough on the table, because it prevents you from really expanding who you are and how you can serve. And so, at some point we'll get into the what is your what framework. But I think that the most important thing to recognize is that your what is really malleable. It's, malleable. It's not, stuck in one place for your entire life.
Well, thank goodness for that.
True.
Right. Yeah. Well, we all deal with setbacks. And I think I heard you say once in your TEDx talk that failure is just a success with an unintended ending or something of that nature.
Yes, that is what I said.
Yeah.
That is certainly one way to look at what transpires in your life. And, of course, the other way is I'm just a fucking failure, right? I mean, which is how a lot of people choose to look at things when they don't go well. And look, I mean, that's a choice, right? So to me, failure is just sort of one of those terms of ignorance that weak-minded people like to throw out at those who dare to soar in an attempt to bring them down, and it's perspective. So, if you have the cojones to, really try to do something and do it, then in no way, shape, or form does that mean you are a failure. Now, the ending may not have been exactly what you wanted it to be, and I can certainly attest to that at numerous times and numerous points over my career.
I'd love to know one of your favorites.
Oh, God. Let me finish this ridiculous train of thought that no one's listening to, because this is about the time where I would have turned me off right now. But just in case we didn't lose everybody yet, for me, looking at failure as success with an unintended ending is a much more empowering way of being, right? Because it doesn't mean that you weren't successful. It just simply means that the ending, in whatever form it was, isn't, exactly in line with what you envisioned. So true.
So true.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, my personal implosions or, business implosions, I mean, look, we can go either way. I mean, we can go on the business front, on the personal front. I mean, there's plenty of examples. But, certainly on the business front, one of the examples that I turn to is, you talked about my launching on CompuServe's electronic mall in 1993. Well, if you backdate that just by a couple of years, that company actually started as a catalog company, because we were selling wine and champagne, spirits, gift baskets, etc., much in the same way that FTD does for flowers, but we were doing it in the alcohol beverage industry. And in 91, we launched a catalog. In 93, we launched online. In CompuServe, in 95, we launched a fully functional website, including e-commerce. And in 98, that company became liquor.com, which, was a great domain, and we were doing really well. We're doing millions of dollars of sales annually, and that .com hype hit, and we thought, man, we've got a great domain, we've got a great business, and we just need more people to know about what we're doing. And that was about the time where Ideas on a Napkin were getting funded with millions of dollars. And we thought, there's no reason why we can't raise some money at this juncture. And so we really got blinded by that .com light and went out and hired an investment bank and did everything that we were told to do, including signing away our management rights to the company, and brought in all these lettered people, the CEOs and CFOs and, all those types of folks. And then we were all ready to go public, and the S1 was filed, and we had it ready to roll in March of 2000. And, of course, that was the beginning of the .com implosion, and ultimately it led to the decimation of Liquor.com, because it became very clear when the money wasn't raised that the people we had brought in really had no clue what they were doing. And so after 9 years, I walked away from everything, including the domain.
Wow. That is quite a story. So then when you decided to reinvent yourself, what did you bring forward from that experience?
Never to sign away my management rights to anything ever again. I think that's the most important lesson learned is no one knows your business better than you do. You can, even if you're just a shit manager, you can still give people enough direction to get them to buy into what your vision is, and hopefully you find the right people who can execute without being, babysat all the time. But for me, it was really just a function of signing away my management rights was just a huge mistake. It just was a huge mistake. And so, interestingly enough, after 6 years, not to say that I was on it the whole time. As a matter of fact, I didn't even think about Liquor.com, the domain, for about 5 years. It was really just out of sight, out of mind. But I knew I had never signed away my rights to the domain. I had bought it personally. And so I always kind of wondered what happened to it. And in 2005, I was able to track it down to a guy in the country of Panama. And in 2006, I was able to reclaim the domain. So I still actually own Liquor.com, and now it's more about mixology and cocktail culture than selling products. As a matter of fact, we don't sell anything on the site at all, much to my chagrin. But, I'm just the owner of the company and chairman of the board.
Right.
So what
do you know, right? Yeah.
And so, the company's based in San Francisco. I'm in the San Diego area. And, the guys are doing a bang-up job. We'll hit 1 million subs probably next month. And we get about 36 million uniques to the site. So, things are doing really well, really good, really well. I never know which word to use there.
Use both. It's okay. We can handle it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So that would be like wood. So that's like a combination of well and good, right? So that's what we'll just do from now on. We'll just say things are going really wood. And
really
people
wood.
Are like, people will be like,
all right,
saying?
All right. You heard it first here on the Start Something show. Wood is now a thing.
Exactly.
Right.
It's a combination of when you don't know whether to say well or good, just say wood.
Just say wood. Exactly. We'll have to decide on what spelling. We can do that later. All right, cool. Someone will hashtag it by the end of the show. It'll be all good.
Right? Sweet.
So it's totally fine.
Although that might have some really interesting connotations.
Oh, that's why I said we have to decide on the spelling.
Yeah, let's just see what happens.
Let's just see what happens with that. Let's pull a string.
Exactly.
That's an entrepreneurial thing to do. Very cool. Well, let's...
just got the domain, by the way.
I want to talk with you something you just touched on, which is lead generation, because that's something that you have a particular set of brilliance in, at least I say so. And
I would agree.
Oh, you would agree? Okay, excellent. Well, let's talk about your brilliance then in lead generation. Why are you so damn good at this?
Because I'm relentless. And, I think that's where sort of the entrepreneurial mindset comes in, which is the true entrepreneurial mindset. This is how you know if you're an entrepreneur to your core or if you're not. And the entrepreneur is relentless. It's just really as simple as that. And there will be bumps in the road. There always are. But when it comes right down to it and push comes to shove, you get back in the game, right? And so that's the whole sort of mentality that I go into lead generation with, which is getting in the game even when the game has been lost. And I'm using the air quotes at this moment, but obviously you can't see that. Because, look, not everything you try is going to work. And that's just the truth, right? So you've got to be willing to test, and test again. And you may find that you don't really hit your stride until the 10th or the 15th or the 100th ad and the 100th headline and the 100th page. And, but once you nail it, you keep it. I mean, like if you go to whatisyourwhat.com/free, I've had that page up since the book came out, which was in 2013. So that page is over 2 years old now, and it still converts at around 82% or so. So, why mess with that? Is as good as I could hope for and as good as the metrics in the industry will show you can typically do. I mean, obviously you can do better, but 82% is still pretty darn solid. So,
yeah, just a touch. I mean, well, it's also hard to argue with a free copy of a New York Times best-selling book.
Well,
I mean, that's just pretty cool, and that's very rare, I would say, in the market, and not for nothing, but it is a really, really good book. I can say that personally.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And so I will do the shameless plug for you. Go get the damn book, people.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
But let me just elaborate just for one more second on that, which is, I have seen other sites where people are giving away books and things of tremendous value, landing pages, full sites, whatever you want to call them. And a lot of those pages don't do very well, even though they're ostensibly giving away the exact same thing I am.
What do you think the difference is?
I think it's really about the test. And you just got to understand that at some point you have to throw your hands up in the air and recognize that you don't have all the answers. And the only one who has the answers, is your potential client, your potential customer. And so, it's really up to them in terms of what's going to work and, what's not. And you've got to defer to your visitor to tell you what they like and what they don't. Because you can guess till the cows come home, but, ultimately it truly is up to the visitor to tell you what's working.
All right. Well, let's take that a step further then. And actually, no, let's take a step back. It's a dance. You have this really nifty formula for finding out what you need to do. So would you say that people, before they start offering products and offering what they're doing, they actually need to step back and say, well, who are they and what is this one thing that they were created to do? Are we wasting time if they don't do that foundation?
Word that a different way.
Okay. So a lot of folks, they have an idea for a product and they want to go out and they want to start marketing it right away. If you don't know if that product or service is in alignment with their what, as you would say, is it worth doing?
Let me be clear that I understand that people have, responsibilities, obligations. You got bills to pay, you got mouths to feed, right? So I am not one of those people who will ever tell you to quit your day job, right? So I understand that we sometimes do that which we may not be thrilled about doing. And so what you're describing to me sounds like what I would term as a commodity-driven opportunity, which means that the opportunity exists to monetize your idea, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily fired up to do it. And, there becomes a fine line between what you do because you see the opportunity and what your ethics tell you, you should or you shouldn't be doing. So, those are two very different conversations, but ultimately I do think that when the opportunity exists for us to create a blanket with sleeves, even if we're not truly fired up to create a Snuggie, if you see this as an opportunity that should not be bypassed, by all means do it, because I see that as a way to fund your what, so that you can pursue that with strategic abandon, because now, money is not necessarily an issue. So, I don't think you have to make decisions based on whether or not it is truly in line with what your what is. But I do think you have to be cognizant of what that is and stay on path so that you never lose sight of how you truly want to impact those you're most compelled to serve.
Cool. All right. So what you're saying then is basically if you see the opportunity, but you're not totally fired up about it, you may be fired up about it, but the fact that it's going to fund then something that you are passionate about. And this kind of goes back to something you said earlier about what your passion it may change over time. So it's not necessarily a reliable indicator of what you should be doing in the world for a living.
And so probably now is a great time to jump into the what is your what framework.
Let's do that.
So, for those who are not familiar with the framework, and if you are, this will be a refresher, but for the millions and billions across the globe who are not familiar with the what is your what framework, because I know that it's actually probably with a B and not an M. The reality is that there are three parts of the what is your what equation. And I think this is where, we talked about passion earlier, and I think this is where, some of this really goes astray, because your what has three components, right? So let me just share what those are. So the first is your gift, right? Which is, it's really what's in your DNA. It's what's in your blueprint. It's that which has chosen you as opposed to that which you have chosen. And so that gift is typically something along the lines of teaching or enrolling or communicating or protecting or entertaining or, something like that. I mean, there's a list of about 22 of them, I think, in the book. And that's going to stick with you your whole life. Now, you could live in denial about what your, true gift is, but it's there and it's not going away. But the question is, how do you apply that and who do you apply that to, which then leads you to the second and third parts of the what is your what framework, which the second part of the equation, so number two in the what is your what framework, is the vehicle. And so what is the vehicle that you will use to share your gift with the world, right? And that can be like, let's say if like healing, right? Like healing is a very popular gift because a lot of people are just natural born healers. But you can heal in a number of different ways. You can heal through massage. You could heal through Reiki. You could heal through, lots of different things, right? So, no short, like nursing, right? I mean, being a doctor. I mean, there's so many different ways for you to share that gift of healing. And then the third part of the equation is, it's the people, right? So who are the people that you are most compelled to serve? And this is really where I think our conversation around niching it down kind of comes into play. And because, that is, I don't want to say it's the most important fork in the road, but how you apply your gift and to whom, I think are certainly equally important. But if you get the who wrong, then it's really hard to get everything else right.
Well, yeah, if nobody's listening, then there's nobody to serve.
Well, that and you're not fulfilled. I mean, let me give you a concrete example, right? So there is, I teach something called the Reinvention Workshop. It's a class that I have, and I've been doing that since 2009. And the Reinvention Workshop takes people through the process of helping them discover what their what is and then creating that plan of action for bringing it to fruition. Now, what happened is about 4 years ago or so, a woman came to the Reinvention Workshop who, a little bit older, I've learned not to ask women their age, but I'm going to guess she was probably in her 60s. She had been a nurse for her entire career. And so she was very clear that her gift was healing. But she, also knew that the way that she would share that gift, the vehicle that she was using to share that gift was nursing. And so she had been a nurse in a general hospital for, like I said, a long time, 20, 30 years. And she just kind of felt, though, that a piece of the puzzle was missing, and she really didn't know why, which is why she was at the workshop. And after working together, it became clear that the people that she was most compelled to serve just weren't the people that she was serving. So as we worked together on it, it became evident that the real focus that she has, the real focus is on the disadvantaged elderly, on serving the disadvantaged elderly. And as you can see, once you plug that into the equation, then the whole equation shifts. The whole equation shifts. And now fast forward, 3-4 years, and she's been working as a head nurse at a Veterans Administration hospital. And that truly has made all the difference for her.
That's very cool to see that gives you the places to look, the people to talk to, the language to use, the whole equation. Yeah, it really does fall into place when you've got the who portion of it. Yeah. All right, then. A couple of things as we wrap up here. If you were starting out today and you had your knowledge, but not the resources you've developed over the years, what would be some of the first things you would do to start something today?
Well, I think that you have to look at where the needs are and how that intersects with what it is that you truly can and are able to do, right? And that's really hard because that requires you to look at, really where the future is going, right? Where things are headed. And the problem is a lot of people come to the game way too late, and so it's like if you look at the online space, look, there's still a lot of opportunity online, don't get me wrong. But in terms of some of the things that have, kind of come and gone, like the telesummit, right? I think the telesummit is a perfect example, of something that had its time and had its place, but I don't see that as sort of a sustainable strategy, right? I think that's the best way to put it.
Absolutely.
I think that it had its time, it had its place. So for you to start right now with a telesummit, I think is just a waste of time, right? And so, and even like the product launches. Now, don't get me wrong, the product launches still do very well for some people, but if you're just getting into the game now, you got to be really careful about how much time, energy, and resources, you put into that, because there are plenty of launches that, people expect to make 7 figures and they make nothing. So,
yes, I've seen it happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so it's just really important to recognize that things are continually evolving. And when you look to get into the online world as an example, the question really becomes, where are things headed, right? And of course, no one has a crystal ball, but at the same token, you can look at what's working, what has worked, and the amount of time that it has been working, and kind of work backwards from that.
All right. Well, I'm going to have you stick around and talk with us on the Backstage Pass, and we can dive deeper into that topic, because I think that is going to be absolutely crucial for all the folks we have here who are starting something in their life and business and want to be on the right track. Steve, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
That's really fabulous. And Superstarters, you can find all the links that Steve talked about, his information, more about Steve and his work. You can download his book, New York Times bestselling book, What is Your What, on the website at thestartsomethingshow.com. And we are going to have more of Steve on the Backstage Pass. We'll see you then.
Start something with purpose. Start something with freedom. Start something now. Go to thestartsomethingshow.com, join our community of superstarters, and get your perfect day planner pack, a free resource to help you create the life you've dreamed of living. Take action now, and we'll see you for our next exciting episode.